What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Gonna keep it light today, or at least on this particular video. I have an article here that references Andrew Yang and his interpretation of what automation would be. I find this interesting because, as many of you know, I supported Andrew Yang during the Democratic primary, and the issue that brought me to Andrew Yang was the idea of automation, the concern that in the future there would be less need for people actually going out and doing jobs, which means people would have less money, which would mean that businesses would ultimately struggle because they have less people who have the means to actually, pay for their services. Well, this article is actually interesting because what it suggests is that the nature of automation may have actually changed, and it kind of references Yang's prediction as to what automation would be. So this is more of an opinion piece, but it still gives us some information about, kind of where things have gone since the pandemic has hit versus where automation was predicted to go prior to. This is from Upside, where data meets business. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this, but I saw Yang. I figured you guys might be interested. So let's get into this. In today's economic environment, some people argue that companies will accelerate the implementation of automation to meet the challenges of the pandemic. A recent study by Georgia State University predicts this very trend. In fact, the pandemic may be increasing the speed of transition towards automation because of social distancing measures and because concerns regarding the spread of the virus have forced the creative use of digital technologies in education, business, and medicine, among other industries. As the pandemic wears on, the age-old debate of whether automation creates jobs or kills them is taking a new twist. To understand how automation is impacting jobs during the pandemic, we should first look where its conversation stood before the crisis. This is where Yang comes in. The original debate focused on whether automation creates changes or kills jobs, and there are plenty of competing opinions. According to Sami Ataya, president of Robotics in Motion, automated technology will increase many more jobs than it destroys. MIT's Eric, I don't know, and others hold that automation will change the jobs that we already have. On the other hand, some, including former U.S. presidential candidate Andrew Yang, claim that automation harms workers and eliminates jobs. That's really where I stand. That's where I believe things are, and I think that's where they're going to go. There just doesn't really seem to be any reason to believe that, given the situation that we're in currently, automation is going to create more jobs. I mean, we're in a situation where companies have had to shed a bunch of employees. We're in a situation where there has to be social distancing in physical locations. So companies are trying to minimize their footprint as much as possible. And we see that the most financially successful companies in this pandemic are those that have the least amount of employees. So there's no reason to think that automation or the nature of automation has changed. Now, I'm sure this guy is brilliant and he's done a lot of impressive things, but he's not quite convinced me that there's a reason right now to think that automation is going to change. But let's read on. This is all educated speculation about what might happen with automation. What does the data about past automation efforts truly tell us? According to studies by MIT's Darren Amaglu and Boston University's Pasquale Restrepo, automation has contributed to greater inequality, stagnant wages, and lower productivity since the 1980s. This is closer to the harms workers vision. However, the nature of automation is changing rapidly, and job destruction is not necessarily guaranteed. If we look past examples such as the Industrial Revolution, technologies did lead to job destruction, but ultimately created new jobs in the aggregate. Also, much of today's automation is designed to eliminate mundane back-end office tasks, not to replace workers altogether. Consider a data engineer using a data management platform to automate a cloud migration. This kind of automation eliminates tons of busy work from her plate and frees her to focus on mission-critical tasks that require her expertise. This situation is unlike earlier forms of automation where machines entirely replace auto assembly workers. I don't think so. I think that just means the secretary has less paperwork to sort, or some junior engineer or someone lower in the totem pole has less things to do. I don't think that completely removes the part about removing the job. I think the job, or at least that particular function of the job, is being removed for a reason. The expectation, I would assume, as an employer, is going to be that you pick up additional responsibilities. So, just seems once again like we're looking for a higher skilled person now. That lower skilled entry level job seems to be less necessary. Such was the automation debate before the pandemic months ago. Since then, the nature of work has changed dramatically, perhaps forever, causing people to reassess automation's future. According to Georgia State's report mentioned earlier, the pandemic could accelerate automation because of the social constraints on the virus. Stay-at-home orders, social distancing, and the nature of the virus's transmission all make uninfectable automated labor more appealing to employers. That's really, I think, the biggest thing, because if we haven't addressed the fact that there's going to be way less people in small locations, in physical stores, automation makes way more sense when you have to get rid of employees because you can't have as many people in a small space. If you've been to a Walmart, have you been to any mall, like they want less people in there. In some places that actually enforce these rules, they're counting people as they come in. They're trying to make sure there's only a certain amount of people in these physical locations at a time. Well, if you have a robot that can take care of 3 of those people's jobs, now you're able to have 2 more, or I guess 3 more full customers in your store, which is going to be better for your bottom line. Not to mention the benefits of being able to run that robot or script or whatever nonstop, because it's not a person. It doesn't ask for days off. You don't have to pay it a salary. You just maintain it, you create it, and you're good from that point on. So again, I'm still not convinced that the nature of automation has changed. I think maybe the excuses are different now, but it's still, again, if we're in a capitalistic society and this is about the bottom line, you didn't really need a reason other than we're going to make more money, we're going to save more money, and that's still the same. According to the report, some sectors already most in danger of the pandemic at significant risk for automation. Roles that can be automated include 73% food service, 41% entertainment and recreation, and 44% of wholesale trades. Sectors less exposed to the virus have also had high potential of automation, including construction 47%, personal care 49%, and manufacturing 60%. Now that's insane. In fact, okay, so I'm in film, I'm in marketing, right? So in my line of work, I find it interesting that, typically prior to this, I would work with a lot of field producers. People would be flown here from different places, and they would hire a team locally, or they would bring people from wherever they are. Because of the restrictions on travel and people quarantine and things like that, those people aren't moving around nearly as much. Now, the producer is working offsite, hiring local people, and they're not traveling. So yeah, the nature of the work has changed. It doesn't eliminate the job, but it eliminates the job on the employer's end, because when they would have brought their own team in, now they're just hiring people. So that becomes a freelancer. Now it becomes you're no longer attached to that job. And again, there's allegedly security in having like a full-time job, and that seems like that's even more vulnerable now than it was a few months ago. These sound like worrisome figures, but they don't mean the employers will likely introduce automation. Large-scale automation is easier said than done. It's not a light switch. A single flick will not create robot waiters. As Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman notes, many industries are exposed to automation for much of modern history, but never actually experienced significant disruption. Now, I want to pause there because I think, again, this is a unique situation. In most prior scenarios of automation, it was something that happened gradually over time. We had a complete work stoppage, a complete brand new list of rules implemented into our economy in the middle of just a regular calendar year. So this isn't, hey, I've developed something, I'm working on it, and we're seeing if we can find some way to implement this into our process. It was like the government just imposed a whole bunch of restrictions on what we can and can't do. All of a sudden, we can't have people in our stores without masks. So all of a sudden, well, how can we find a way to still maximize productivity an income without having to suffer without having kind of real hiccups in our process. So again, I think this situation is unique, and it's probably the worst possible scenario for us or for anyone who is concerned about the future of where automation will take our economy. No, what will likely happen, at least at first, are modest automation projects that contribute to overall efficiency. This is already scattershot data confirming this. There's already scattershot data confirming this. Automated floor cleaner company BrainCore says it's seen a 13.8% robotic usage increase in its first quarter of this year in U.S. retailers and 24% rise in the second quarter. With offices closed, PayPal has used automated chatbots for a record 65% of all customer inquiries. These preliminary reports are incomplete, but they suggest the automation is indeed increasing efforts during the pandemic, although the mismatch between the dire predictions and the reality should be noted. Again, I'm not seeing why there's a mismatch. Are the jobs going to come back? Are the people who lost their job going to return to their job because they have chatbots now? Or are they going to have less work to do, and therefore there's a less need for PayPal to hire employees? I still don't see the association between these two things. And if you look at the data regarding the uncertainty of many Americans, it's still there. Many people are still very much concerned. Over 60% of Americans are still very concerned about the future of the economy. Like everyone's okay right now. A lot of people actually do have money right now. Of course, we had the stimulus package come through. We had increased unemployment insurance. But if you look, what's this number? Let me give you the number. Let me give you the number because I like my numbers. 33% or 27% of Americans have had someone in their home laid off. 33% have had someone have a wage. I'm sorry, 29% have had a wage reduction, and 33% have had hours cut. So hours were cut because they didn't have as many people coming through. They couldn't justify the expense. What changed that? What about automation doesn't change that? I don't see why there is a dissociation between what the pandemic has created versus future outlook on need. What will likely happen? Oh, I'm sorry, I read that. These preliminary reports are incomplete, but they suggest the automation. Okay, despite all the job-destroying rhetoric, automation is actually helping workers stay safe and efficient during the pandemic. Automation is, at its core, about removing human beings from work processes. This creates efficiencies in normal circumstances. But with the virus, this erasure of human touch points also improves safety. Again, human touch points. That's a big thing here. I don't see how I would automate a process just to put a human back in it if my concern was about human touch points. We have lots of those currently. Automation can spare workers, especially frontliners, including grocery store staff, nurses, hospitalist secretaries, and police officers from additional human contact. Automatic checkpoints, medical imaging based on machine learning, automated intake forms, and AI-based identity detection can limit human contact and inhibit the virus from spreading. Even away from the front lines, automation can help businesses reopen with proper safety measures, considering manufacturing. To maintain social distancing, some manufacturing businesses will employ collaborative robots as part of the assembly line. By working side by side with humans, cobots can pick, sort, and replenish materials without fear of carrying the virus. Businesses that must operate at 25 to 50% capacity can use cobots to get up and running while also enhancing safety. Where's the need for a new employee? I'm still confused. The efficiency generated by automation will also take new significance during the pandemic. Imagine a doctor stuck in her office completing insurance forms. An automated computer vision program could scan this paperwork, extract the data, generate complete insurance files. This frees the doctor to do what she does best, treating patients. Automation greatly reduces human errors, for example. Automating, same thing. These are not reasons to think that the nature of automation has changed such where companies aren't automating in the same way that they would have before. It just seems like now they get to do it faster. Now it makes more sense. Now it's 100% justified. And given the huge burden of financial responsibility they had with the employees that they just shed or reduced hours or whatever financial gains they just received due to funds made available by the feds, why wouldn't they take this opportunity to embrace automation? I mean, now they've realized this was a weakness in their business. Now they're prepared. They never want to be put in this situation ever again, or a situation where they rely on their employees, their people coming into their stores, their employees doing work, and they can't have that be done. We've seen so many businesses. That was the reason they ended up having to shut their doors, was because of the overhead. So if they can reduce that as much as possible, and eliminating employees through all different types of automation is the key to doing that. The most successful businesses, again, were those that had the least amount of employees, were those that rely mostly on technology and less on people. So while this author is suggesting that that automation has impacted or how jobs have been impacted by automation, and that relationship is different, I don't see that at all. To me, the relationship is the exact same. And actually, it's probably worse now, because prior to this, you weren't thinking about the germs aspect of it. You weren't thinking about the space impact of everything. You were just looking at increased efficiency, increased profit. Now it's, oh yeah, and what if we can't have employees do that anymore? What if we can't have people around each other again? What if we have another global pandemic? The pandemic has created new concerns that are only going to accelerate automation. And in today's climate, and kind of looking forward, I think that there's no reason to think that automation won't speed up significantly compared to where it would have prior to the pandemic coming through. So that's all I have to say about this. I would love to hear what you guys think. If you guys like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe for more. I'll see you guys in the next one.